This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today I'm going to actually, once again, talk to a point of something that I had to remind myself with just pretty recently, which was to stop knowing, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, I suppose, in some degree, but really to stop knowing. And what I mean by that is stopping at knowing, right? And there's four sort of levels of learning here. There's know of, know about, relate with, and embody. And a lot of the time, we might find ourselves stuck at simply knowing. It's like, yeah, I know that. It's like, yeah, intellectually, and you know it in your head, but do you believe it? Is there an emotion that goes with it? Do you embody it? Emotion, do you embody it? Is it felt in the body? Do you believe it in the body? You know, and that's one of the reasons why we start to go, I don't know, it just feels different this time, rather than I think it's different this time. It's just different, and we can hear it, and we hear it for ourselves. Now, each and every person's individual experience is going to be different based on that. However, moving through this know of and then know about, and often we get stuck at that space of being like, well, I know what to do. Why am I not doing it? It's like, well, it's like probably because there may be an identity thing there, or a belief thing, or a value thing that's in the way of it. But the belief around it is definitely going to be in the body, and the work there for a lot of people, and myself included, is to look at the frames that we hold about the thing that we know. And so once again, we may have an outcome that we want that isn't really associated or aligned with moving through the knowing. Maybe knowing is enough, and that's okay. And so the question there is, well, do you give yourself permission just to know and stay in that knowing? And if that's the case, then be with that, and simply know of it and know about it, and let that be the case. So if we, however, want to simply know more, the next bit of the intelligence isn't in the intellect of the brain. The next bit of the intelligence is knowing it in the body. And this is when we meet someone, they just embody this. They just embody yoga, or they just embody, as they're not a salesman, like they embody service. They're just completely in service of the client. And that's a completely different thing. And so it's worth looking at what we do with our lives, career-wise or whichever, and look at that and go, hang on a sec, am I really embodying what it is that I do with most of the hours of my life every single week? And the other thing around that, and this is where a lot of the time we say, I'm passionate about what I do, or, I really, you stick with passion, like passion being the emotion, is that it's felt in the body. There is an intellectual and emotive link between what I'm doing and why it's important to me. And so, if I could talk to this from my own perspective, it's really looking at, this constant development of myself and going, well, I know that, and I know to do this, and I know to know it, and I know that in order to move forward, I got to know more than simply knowing it. And it's one of the processes that I continually have to work through, and it's just like, well, what maybe is getting in the way of me moving towards, embodying this, or simply moving to that next stage of development. And it's asking these explorative questions that allows us to then be curious about whatever the fuck arises, like just let whatever arise, and seeing that rather than identifying as whatever arises. That's one of the biggest things. So when we go into these exploring questions, it's like, well, if there was something holding me back, what could it be? And then see what arises from that. But just see it. Don't be it. Just see it and go, for example, what's stopping me from being more playful? It's like, well, playful people don't get taken seriously. It's like, okay, well, do I want to get taken seriously? It's like, well, in my job I do. It's like, okay, well, what about at home? It's like, well, sort of. I want to be taken kind of seriously, but I also want to be able to play with my children. And you know, I actually had a lot of fun with my wife when we used to be more playful. Shit, okay, so I'm taking this frame that playful people aren't taken serious, and I grab it and it works at work, I think, but it doesn't work at home. It's not serving me there. And all of a sudden we start to see this thing. It's like this complete lack of playfulness. Although it can serve me and I can embody it in other areas of my life, it's the frames there that I'm holding to playfulness that's holding me back. And that's just playfulness, let alone money or relationships or the opposite sex or the same sex or the fitness levels that we want. And it's just like, if we're not really deeply, acutely aware of, you know, what it is that we want or why we want to be able to learn to embody something, whatever it is, we can embody anything, right? You know, and to do that, it's like, well, we need to have this ability to get out of our own way, and in order to get out of our own way, it's actually moving, funnily enough, into the body. We move out of the head, out of the so-called intellect, and into the intelligence of the body. And this is where trust isn't a logical thing necessarily. It can be associated with it, but trust is often seen as this complete embodiment of just self-trust to just be able to deal with whatever arises in the moment. And even leading into asking these questions and seeing what arises from your questions and just seeing it is simply trusting yourself to deal with whatever arises. Not to, you know, simply identify or complain or reject or excuse whatever arises, but just to see it. And so in that space, we have this beautiful, like, offer, this opportunity, this inquiry to really, like, drive our own development around embodying what it is that we want to do with our lives. And so my offer, my gift for you guys is to look at the things that you think you know and be like, do I really know this on deeper levels than logically? You know, what would it be like if maybe I know nothing? What would it be like if I was literally a child with this skill again and I had all the ability to learn? And I mean, I did this recently when it came to marketing. I was like, well, maybe I'm holding this particular frame that I'm meant to know and I should have it already all sorted out. And so I think and act like I do, but I don't. What would it be like if I was fucking brand new to it all over again, and this, like, just asking that just opened up all these possibilities and these questions? And it was like, man, and I went straight away to the student, and I read 10 books on the concepts, and, you know, studied a lot of things, listened to a lot of programs on it, because I wanted to get better at, well, for me then later on, it wasn't marketing, it was, you know, communication of the things that I'm so passionate about and believe in. And so it was never about marketing or advertising. It was about making sure that I had the tools to be able to communicate a message that was important to me, to the people that deserve to hear it, to be able to improve their own lives. It's like, right, well, if I held a frame before that I'm meant to know enough about marketing anyway, and I never looked into it, then maybe you never listened to this podcast. Or maybe the people that come to my gym, they would never have got the message and they would never have come and improved their life and so forth. And so it's just seeing the frames and asking the questions, the inquiries, to see if something's going to, you know, what's in the way of you truly embodying what's important to you. And that's a question for you to lean into. And if you have an answer and it comes up and see how you go with this, get in touch with me. I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, that's it. I'm out. Thank you very much for tuning in, as always. And if you haven't already, jump on Facebook, search Mood Prep Online. And that's it for me today. Until tomorrow, peace and pizza. Kick today in the dick. Slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unbound.